Life has many ways of holding us down, holding us back. At times it feels like we have a ticking time bomb inside. We know there's more to life, but something's holding us back. There can be a wide range of reasons. Where we live, our jobs, our education, our family, so many things that it's hard to list them all. Feeling held down often relates to work, how we perceive our jobs, our careers. Of course, the external circumstances can be the cause, but sometimes it's closer to home. It's our baggage, our past, how we use what we've learned or felt at a former job. Maybe we loved a prior job. We have fond memories and experiences. Maybe our past positions used unique lingo, words and terms that are not easily understood by other businesses. In a nutshell, it's true that external circumstances can hold us down, but it's also possible we're holding ourselves back. Let's look at a couple of examples. The alarm was like a hawk bellowing in Nia's ear. It felt like the hawk was screaming only inches away. Nia rolled over and slowly closed her eyes. In her mind, she thought, it can't be another workday. The thought was too depressing. She had to be at work early for a breakfast meeting with her boss. She rolled back over and turned off the hawk. The evil beast invaded her world every morning. She had to think of some revenge for that little monster. She did live in LA, so a trip to the ocean might be an option. The hawk would find out if it could swim. Of course, the hawk was also her cell phone, so it was a no real danger. Next stop, the shower. As Nia got in the shower, she thought about the topic that she thought about every morning. The promotion. Always the promotion. She'd been with the company about 4 years. Her boss seemed pleased with her work, but there was still no advancement. It was frustrating. In her last job, she was a superstar. She'd only left the position because this new opportunity offered a salary increase. She needed someone to talk to. Booker came to mind. Booker had been her mentor at her former employer. She could meet Booker before she met her boss for the meeting. She'd give him a call. On the drive to meet Booker, she kept reflecting. She had gone from superstar to lost in the crowd. She kept presenting ideas to improve the business. They were ideas that made her former company very successful. Her former company grew by 20% in revenue the first year they were implemented. But now, at the new company, every time she mentioned the ideas, she got a blank stare. She spotted Booker and they started to walk. She felt like she was near tears. Whenever she presented her ideas, her boss Mike just changed the subject and moved the conversation to another of Nia's teammates. It felt like a losing battle. It made no sense. The two companies were so similar. Her ideas should have been accepted. She mentioned to Booker that she had reminded Mike how successful the ideas had been at the other business. She begged for Booker's help. What was she doing wrong? Booker thought back to his own experience. What had made him stand out? He had been successful and got promoted, but why? Life isn't fair, so it wasn't luck. It was feeling the culture of his business, the vibration. Each business has a vibration, a rhythm. What was Nia missing about her new company? He had been in a similar situation, new company. After a few years, he got promoted. Asking her about the vibration of the new business sounded a bit funky. So he asked her what was her boss's style. How did her teammates communicate with Mike? That made Nia ponder. She'd never thought of that question before. She said that Mike had been with the business about 15 years, so it was a little second nature to him now. The products, the services, and the customers. Old hat. Then it dawned on Booker. He asked Nia if when she presented her ideas, did she use the terms that were relevant to her former employer or ones that were related to the new business? Nia thought for a second. She said that because the ideas related to the former business, she used those terms, the terms that related to her prior employer. Booker said, that's the problem. Nia looked puzzled. What problem? He said you need to use the lingo of your current business when presenting your ideas. Your teammates are turned off by your reference to another company. Adapt your ideas to your new business. The light went on. Nia got it. It was like being jealous of an old relationship. Her boss and her teammates wanted to hear about their business, not an old flame. Using Booker's advice, Nia updated her ideas and gradually presented them to Mike and the team. With a new approach, Mike got it. Nia's ideas made sense. He could now see how change would benefit their business. Dropping the reference to Nia's former company had been a game changer. Within a few months, the promotion was hers. Mike and the team saw her as a contributor to their team, not her former employer. Logan looked in the mirror. He still had the fighter pilot look, the look of confidence. His mind drifted back to that time. Flying fighter jets would boost anyone's self-esteem. Logan had been good at it. Yes, he was a bit cocky, and flashing that smile always opened doors. He was proud of his time in the service, but any job as stressful as that would take time away from your family, and that just wasn't acceptable as his family grew. He also reflected on how he would age with the stress of such a high-demand job. It was time to move on. The water running down his face made him return to the present. This is now. Out of the military, a civilian. Like other military pilots, he had considered the airlines, but it just didn't have the same appeal. Also, he wanted new challenges, business challenges. Initially, he thought it would be simple. If he was smart enough to fly jets, he should be smart enough to handle being a business leader. But now, after 15 interviews, he was beginning to doubt himself. Doubt that never happened when he was a pilot. He had talked with his wife, Heather, but neither could spot what was wrong. The earlier interviews had gone well, but something was missing. They always liked him. That smile always worked. But when it came down to getting an offer, he was out in the cold. What was missing? He started to break down the prior interviews. They were always similar. Meet with the manager, have a bit of chit-chat for 15 minutes. Then the next part was tell us about yourself. He'd go into the pilot story, college, Air Force, jets. The interviewers always seemed impressed. It was a good story. At that point, the manager was usually joined by other members of the team, usually about 4 people asking him questions. The questions began to drill down to the details of business, as compared to his resume. The people in the room would read his resume and often look puzzled. His resume was filled with pilot-related military acronyms: AGL, GCI, PRF. Of course, those were important parts of his job history, but they were gobbledygook to his audience. That reminded Logan of his son Charlie. Sometimes he just babbled. He was only 3. Senseless words. He was sure they meant something to Charlie, but to the adults in the room, it was meaningless. Logan pondered a little deeper on how Charlie communicated. As Charlie grew up, his ability to communicate would improve. Charlie's communication skills would evolve. He would learn how to create words and sentences that people understood. Charlie would gain value because both his ideas and thoughts were being understood. In other words, he would feel value when others understood him. He would feel rewarded. Then the light went on for Logan. Evolve and people will understand you. How could he apply that to his job search? If Charlie could do it, he could. If he evolved his approach, he would be rewarded, just like Charlie. He thought of his resume and how he answered questions during interviews. He used words that meant something to him in his military career, but they meant nothing to business leaders. He needed to evolve his communication skills to his desired audience. Some skills were fairly easy to adapt. For example, being a fighter pilot took leadership. He would play up his leadership skills by saying, "My leadership activity is similar to what you do at your business." For the more technical terms related to being a pilot, he would remove the acronyms and adapt the core concepts to be related to business. The overall concepts of the military aren't that different than business. He thought of navigation. It was the lifeblood of being a pilot. In a business interview, he could relate his navigation skills to managing a project. At the core, navigating a $10 billion jet was like navigating a business project. If you didn't land your jet within a certain period of time, you ran out of fuel. For a business, if you didn't deliver the project on schedule, you cost the business money. Very similar concepts. Managing each flight was a project. Tasks had to be delivered on schedule, just like a business. By rewording his military experience, Logan would highlight how his experience matched the business. So what did we learn from Nia and Logan? In either a job interview or a promotion, it comes down to communication. In one sentence, tailor your communication to your audience. If you communicate in the lingo, the terms of the people you're talking to, you will be successful. Know your audience. On a related note, knowing your audience can be a challenge. So how do you get to know your audience? To help, we've created an online course to help you understand your audience. It'll also help you with standing out either on the job or during a job interview. Check out our online course called New Horizons. The link to Next Chapter Tech's New Horizon course is below. Well, we hope you enjoyed hearing about Nia and Logan and gained insight into how to avoid being held down because of gaps in communication.